Hey everyone, it's Andrea Jenson with the Cashflow CFO, and today I am joined by my friend and client, Mike Campion. Mike is the owner and founder of Grow My Cleaning Company, and I have had the privilege to be a part of his journey for several years now, watching him impact the lives of lots and lots and lots of cleaning business owners, and I've really had the pleasure of watching lives changed by the work that Mike does with his clients. So welcome, Mike. Thanks for joining me today.
I feel very welcomed, and I'm happy to join you today.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you. Well, I'm excited to have you on because number one, what I said, like your work is really changing the lives of the business owners that you work with in the coaching, capacity that you work with them. And we've had the pleasure of working with you and supporting your business now for several years. So we've gotten to come along that journey with you, if you will, in how your business has grown and evolved and all of the cool stuff that you have really been creative with in finding different ways to serve your clients and to really fill the need that they have. I'd love to chat with you a little bit about that. And maybe you can think back to when we first met. Where were you at in your business?
It's a really good question. It's been a while. I feel like it's been 3 or 4 years, so I'm going to probably do a poor job recollecting. But I know you were referred by a friend, and I think it was just, were we doing the accounting ourselves? That sounds insane to say, but
I think Natalie was.
Yeah, my wife, I think, was doing the accounting, and I'm sure that is not what she loved at all. So probably not a good, well, if any of you guys are doing the accounting yourself or your wife's doing it, like immediately find someone like Andrea to sign up. And it's tough because I shouldn't say no. My understanding is your main focus is the CFO part, which I've enjoyed very much. But just truth be told, the accounting part has been super exciting for me. So I can, I don't want to step on your toes here and like say the wrong thing. But for me, not that the CFO hasn't been great, but I feel like that's been helpful. Whereas the accounting part has been, I don't say a lifesaver, but really wildly helpful.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's actually really true. And I think what is kind of cool about you pointing that out is that a lot of the business owners don't realize how important that piece of having the accounting nailed down and having a solid team behind you, because the data in is really so important to be able to get the analytical data that the CFO team uses to help you to present the business, the health of the business, and look at, all the different revenue streams and the profitability. And so by having a good accounting team, that really enables that second half of that process to work like a well-oiled machine, right?
Well, I believe we've referred several of our clients to you, and I got to say, selfishly, that's exactly right. Like for our clients, we act as part of the service we provide. I would say we act as a fractional CFO, similar to what you do. That's, for you, that's the main thing. For us, that's a piece of, we only help owners of cleaning companies and looking at their books is a big part of that. And the reason we started referring you is 12% I like you and I want to see you do well and I want to support your business. But 88%, I'm so freaking sick of garbage books and trying to argue with accountants who are like, well, they should be cash. We don't need accrual. That's what or I don't know what I'm doing. They're just either lazy or stupid or both, or I don't know what they're doing, but it was just so frustrating. And selfishly, it was nice to, and if, I don't want to be on like on the Andrea train here, but whatever, my check is cleared for what she's paying me to do this podcast, everybody. Free coffee is actually my actual hopes and dreams for my compensation for this.
Got you covered.
My time here. So anyway, all that to say, just having clean books when I'm trying to look at them for someone else has been super helpful. And then for me, we did a pretty good job of having our books clean internally, but me having my wife do it, that was just not either. I had to do it, which is not the best use of my time. Have my wife do it, which is not the best use of her time. And it certainly wasn't doing wonders for our relationship. So I think some people come to you like, hey, my books are a mess. I need to be clean so I can look at them. I feel like our books were clean, but we were unhappy doing it. And then again, I hate to say all this stuff because I don't know what service you offer to anyone else. I just know our experience. But the fact that game changer for us is we don't have a lot of bad debt or very little bad debt, but every now and again, a client thing declines or the credit card, whatever. And I know just as an owner for me or my wife calling, it's our money. It's just kind of weird. And the fact that you guys do that has been wildly helpful, because whoever on your team does it for us, they don't have an emotional, you know what I'm saying? It's like weird asking for your own money, but when someone else handles, so just, it felt very like white glove, like, oh, this is nice. And my brick and mortar businesses I had before this, we had physical accountants on site. And I'm just like, I don't even know that we needed that. So I'm a little spoiled in that. Yeah. It seems like for the complexity of our business, which isn't wildly complex, a fractional accountant and a fractional CFO just makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's very true. Was there anything that, if you could think back, that you hesitated or that you had a fear of outsourcing that pillar of your business?
It's so funny. When we first, I don't even remember what the pricing was. I just remember going, that seems a little steep. And I don't know hopefully I didn't bitch to you or complain. Maybe I did, because I'm terrible. It would not like unreasonable or unfair. Like I wasn't offended, just like, I don't know. It was really just, am I going to get value for this? And I remember, I forget, it was the CFO part and it's kind of broken down 2 or 3 different things. I remember thinking 1 or 2 of them seemed reasonable. And one's like, I don't know. And again, I went forward. So I wasn't like, that's a scam. I just was hesitant. And hopefully I told you a couple of months in, I'm like, the part, I think it was the accounting, I think sounded expensive. I was like, the CFO seems, and then it was reversed. I'm like, oh my gosh, I should shut my mouth. You could charge me more. I'm not leaving. So I think it was more just I trusted you were a referral. We spoke on the first thing, you seem to know what you're talking about. So there wasn't really a lot of fear around competence. It was just probably how big of a pain in the butt is this going to be? And I don't really remember it. So it couldn't have been that big. Maybe it wasn't, I've forgotten, but that was probably a concern. How much pain in the butt is this going to be? And I remember nothing. So I'm sure it was fine. And then is this going to be one of the, how as business owners are always buying crap, and some of it works out and some of it doesn't. And I can truthfully say it's been 2 or 3 years and I've moved from, obviously I thought it was a good deal, I wouldn't have done it, but like, I could, at the beginning, I'm like, we'll see, to, like of all the vendors we'd have, you'd be, if we had to, things went bad or we had to let people go, you guys would be a short list. I'm like, not Andrea, I'm not willing to do that job again.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's true. I think you get into that cycle of, I'm just going to do it and it's not that bad. But then when you do have it taken off your plate, you're kind of like, oh, a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, it's like first class. I was always okay not flying first class. And then I flew after flying first class. I'm like, well, I'm not going to go back there. I'm insane. So I think same thing. I feel a little spoiled and I'm like, well, I'm not willing to give that up. So well done with your cocaine-like services.
I love it. I don't think that many people speak that way about accounting services or CFO services. So I feel so
yeah, that's true. That's one of those things though, because again, I see it my clients weekly, if not daily, of what it can look like to be a mess. And just that constant niggling. You don't know where and just as a coach, it's a son of a gun to try and freaking, it's like you go to the doctor and you're like, all right, I need an analysis, but I'm not going to give any blood. I'm not going to tell you how much I weigh. And you can only physically examine my left shoulder. It's like, well, okay, I'll do the best I can, but there's really not a lot you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's true. Especially like in your field, right? If you're not getting the data to help your clients, then you can't do your job. And same thing as a business owner. If you're not getting the data to run your business, then you can't, do an effective job at that either. So I bet your wife was happy though, when we stepped in and she got to kind of,
oh my gosh. Yeah. That's
away.
Years ago. I remember that was not something and I guess the other thing is that I prefer, because I've gone both ways with in-house accounting. Actually, that's all I'd done up until you guys. I'd had fractional CFOs before, but only in-house accounting. And I think the reason my wife was doing it, she's like, that seems stupid. It's like, well, you trust them with the money. Like, obviously I trust my wife's not going to rob the company. So the trust factor, I don't know why, because we always had high caliber people. So even when I had accountants, it's not like I was afraid they were going to steal from me. And to my knowledge, I haven't been stolen from, but it just seems different when there's a company, you know what I'm saying? Like your person would have to collude with you, or it would be just the checks and balances, internal control seem a little more powerful. And I think I don't know how many years we've been with you, we are on our 3rd person, and that was nice, right? Like you're like, hey, I remember the first time I was like, oh boy. And it was literally nothing. I'm like, I don't, knock yourself out. So that was nice. Like and that's probably a reasonable cycle. If I had my own internal accounting for 3 or 4 years, I'd probably have, God willing 1, but 2 or 3 or 4 of my own would have been reasonable, but the headache factor would have been a lot higher. And it was nice to like, I really didn't even think about it. I'm like, that seems like an Andrea problem to me, which was, again, super, you get spoiled pretty quick. So I think going forward, we'd have to get to be pretty large, where it was like probably almost too full, like a payables clerk or receivable. Like we'd have to get to the point where we were really needing 3 or 4 people to be like, all right, it makes sense to insource it. But as long as we're like 0 to 1 or, around 1, I'm like, I think I'd rather just outsource it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm like that with a lot of services in our business too, where it's just like, the hassle of trying to train somebody in something that's not your core expertise, managing them, and then, just having that extra, just one other division or function of the business that you have to be constantly thinking about versus, like you're saying, having it outsourced and having, the structure in place where they've got everything is documented in SOPs, and whether it's me doing it or somebody on my team, they're going to do it the exact same way that the process was built. So for you as the client, it's that seamless interaction. So that's really cool. Tell me more about your business. So tell me a little bit about, how did you decide that you wanted to go into this type of coaching?
I'll tell you whatever you want to know, but I can't think of a less interesting story about coaches, owners of cleaning companies. So I've had a lot of brick and mortar business before, the last being a car dealership, which was a lot of that's, I freaking knew this. Where were you then, sister? Holy heck. I like having you now. I could have really used you then, because that was obviously more capital intensive, just a lot more equity and just a lot more capital inflows, outflows. Whereas the business we have now is coaching. So it's very, no offense to your amazing service, it's nice to have you. I don't need you. Back then, it was like a lot more capital intensive. So I guess if I was an owner considering like, hey, do I need something like this? Super nice if you've got a clean business like ours, which is pretty decent margin, pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. It's like, yeah, it'd be great. But you start getting capital intensive like manufacturing or construction or car dealership, or just anything where it's like a lot of capital. It's like, yeah, you should probably have someone. So all that to say, when I sold that, I was like, I do not want all that headache again. And we just started a podcast, Grow My Cleaning Company podcast. If you own a cleaning company would like to grow, you will find it fascinating. If you're the 99% that do not have that, you're welcome to listen, but I don't think it'd be all that entertaining. And we started a podcast, I think Conversation with a Genius, where I just interview other people that I thought were smart and interesting. And then oddly enough, I think I just shared my story, whatever kind of owners of cleaning companies, because that was my first business I owned many years ago, kind of came out of the cracks, and I started coaching them one-on-one, started realizing a lot of the conversations we had were repetitive. So we created a system, and just the boring story goes on from there.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing that I really love and admire about your business model is the simplicity of it. It's profitable, it's effective, and it's simple. And when you add those 3 things together, that's really where you're able to scale a business. And I think that's something that you guys have done really, really well. We see a lot of business models, and that's something that we talk about. Like, the more simple it is, the better, the easier your life's going to be. And have you ever felt the need to kind of, I know as business owners and entrepreneurs, we kind of sometimes suffer from that shiny object syndrome. Have you ever felt yourself being pulled from your core business model and trying to add in things that ended up just being like more complexity?
Yes. And when I was younger, I had a construction company, a car dealership. Obviously, I owned a cleaning company for a while. It definitely did not feel, I was always looking, the grass was always greener on their side. And it's tough because for me, I can't castigate massive industries, but specifically like the car dealership, that's for me, I would never coach anyone to go into that. Construction, it is tough, man. And it's super like no recurring work, right? Like you do a project and that's that. And so, yes, but I think once I found like this model for me works really, really well. Like it's the opposite of a car dealership. Like we had a lot of government agencies and a lot of oversight, and I don't deal well with red tape and just nonsense. So for me, and there's people who do really well in the car business. So I'm not saying it's bad business, but for the way I'm wired and what I want to do, it is not a system I work well under. Lots of moving parts and detail oriented stuff. And that's just not for me. So I don't know if it's as I've gotten older, I just got a business model that suited my skills better. I've been less shiny object, but now I just do the shiny objects within my business. So I'm still trying to do new stuff, but as opposed to I'm going to buy another business or do 6 businesses or whatever, I'm doing more businesses within my business. And that's been, yeah. So as I get older, I think focus is probably one of the skills that I've developed the most and still have the most to go. So I wish I could say like, I'm completely focused now, like a laser. It's like, no, I'm way better before, but I'm still little shiny objects. And, it's part of the gift and curse of being an entrepreneur from my perspective.
100%. I completely agree with that. It's kind of like, it's that part of our brain that we just can't shut off no matter how hard we try. But I think that, if our listeners can take a few things away from this conversation, it's number one, you just said reoccurring revenue. Your model right now has reoccurring revenue, and that is key. When you talk about, increasing a business's valuation, reoccurring revenue is in the top 5 of that. So that's really cool that your model has that built into it. And then it has the simplicity. So that's the other piece that I think is important to take away. You don't have to have a complex business model. It can be simple and profitable and enjoyable and effective. And you don't have to keep, Frankensteining it into all these other things that we see some business owners doing. That's where the discipline, I think, definitely comes in to just kind of go, this is working. I'm going to let this run and do its thing. Awesome. Well, Mike, this has been super cool. I'm so glad that you were able to jump on and have this coffee talk conversation with your CFO. Is there anything that you would recommend to a business owner who's looking to scale to the 7 or 8 figures that you've learned along your way? That's a little golden nugget you'd like to share.
That's a broad question. And I coach for a living, so I could go on forever, but I guess I'll stick on with what we started. That focusing is really, I get that a lot with my people. They're like, I want to buy this, or I want to start that. I want to do this other thing. And when I was younger as a coach, I would be, no, don't do that. And now I'm more, just be clear on what you want. So if your goal is to flex your entrepreneurial muscle and you're like, this is a lifestyle business, I want to feel a certain way, I want to sow my wild entrepreneur oats, then God bless, go do that. Just know that for you to get a system, a customer, a process set up for that new thing is going to be like, if I want to go get a new client, if I want to coach a realtor on how to grow their business, which I'm confident I could, for me to get that client and get to be, and I'm really good at owners of cleaning companies, all we do for 7 years, right? I'd have to start so far back. So for me to even get a client as a realtor would take so much more time and money. And then to get the results anywhere close to the results I get from my current client, it would just take me so long. So it's like, some of the most successful people I do are so boring. They just do the same boring business for a long time and they could do it in their sleep. And it's not super sexy. It's not super fun, but I would coach you to get clear on your goal. And if your goal is like, I want to grow and be profitable, do the boring stuff for an unreasonable amount of time. If you just want to have fun and be an entrepreneur, and you're like, I have money, I don't need that, then do what makes you happy. Right.
Yeah. No, I love that. Great advice. Where can people find you if they want to find out more about your coaching programs for cleaning companies?
Yeah, well, there's really nothing for sale, but like I said, we've done almost 900 podcasts, growmycleaningcompany.com, bunch of free crap. Check it out.
Yep. Love it.
Where can people find you, Andrea?
Oh, well, down below, there's all kinds of fun links that they can click on to learn more about our services. And Mike, thank you so much for jumping on with me today. And I really appreciate it. And I know our listeners, I'm sure, are walking away with a few things that they need to go and think about a little more. So appreciate that. And thank you so much.
Glad I could help.